Explained by the Billy Meier contacts, mysteries, myths, legends, conspiracy theories, historical inaccuracies, and more, compiled by David Chance, revised July 2, 2025.
Future Earth Humans Part 9. See also Gilgamesh. See also Hyperborea, Hyperboreans. See also Ica Stones. See also Longskulls. See also Men in Black. See also Nazca Lines. See also Nokodemion. See also Ptah. See also Quetzalcoatl. See also Rod. See also Starchild Skull. See also Teos Caves Metal Library. See also Tunguska Event 1908. See also UFOs Flying Saucers.
Contact Report 98.
First, I want to give you my best regards from my cannibal. See previous entry. She agrees that you should call her what I do.
She delights me very much with it, and she should be sure of my thanks. It is very strange to me that I feel joy in such matters, because so far such things were strange to me, but I feel quite exhilarated by this joy.
But I see, my son, that you are versatile, and that you still react naturally. This might also be the reason why you react to certain things, including feeling-based ones, of us Earth humans in such a form that you feel joy in them.
My inner life is probably not hidden from you?
You were born too late for that.
What are you trying to express? It is ha ha ha, now I understand. I understand. Ha ha ha. I am some centuries older than you, and yet I was born too late for you. That, ha 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 ha, that is really good. I understand you very well now.
Do you not kiss your sweet ones, your girls, and vice versa? Or is that only left to us Earth humans?
But yes, we also have these feeling-based stirrings.
Contact Report 99.
You really cannot do a shortcut just because everything is not going as you envisioned it would. Remember that we cursed Earth moles are as ignorant and barbaric as the last monkeys from the jungle. Consider for once that the truth has not been fed to us off of spoons, and that your fair ancestors were involved in this damned mess. Just remember that you cannot turn an Earth human into a pig and then give him or her only one short chance to develop into a human being again. Remember, damn it, that your ancestors stole and ruined all our knowledge, raised themselves up before us as gods and god creations, and that they were the ones who rejoiced in our ruination and exploited us through it, absolutely knowing that we had to turn into the most miserable mess in the entire universe. It is therefore damn unfair if, for once, you take a close look at everything from our side, if you just want to leave us lying in the dirt. We are barbarians, unknowing, poor and damned pigs, yes, but we became that through your ancestors, my son. Consider that. And if you already know that, and you know that damn well, because otherwise you would not have come to us to help us and to bring back to us what your heroic, damned ancestors have ruined for us. Why do you not feel obliged to help us to the very end, even if we are still quite stupid and primitive in our cursed ignorance, because all our knowledge has been stolen or ruined?
Contact Report 100.
But take into positive consideration the fact that our task is extremely difficult, and that we must acquire new knowledge continuously and mostly by making mistakes, just as you have to make in order to gain knowledge. This is not meant as an excuse, but only a request that you try to understand us, and that we still have a lot to learn, especially here on the Earth, in connection with you Earth humans and with your, still in many parts, hidden forms of thinking, feelings, and emotions. We can only ask all of you to understand us, because we are only human beings like you, and we too are far from making any mistakes in the evolution.
Contact Report 101.
That is not good, but can you at least send the squirts, the energy-clearing dwarfs, into our den and into her old room to remove her vibrations.
Contact Report 102.
Here on Earth, it is customary to celebrate a birthday. Do you do that also?
We always remember the time of our birth. But we do not celebrate, for such action is based on a primitive pagan cult.
This is also the case here, as Quetzal explains.
Aha, good. I do not mean at the celebration that we celebrate a festivity, at least not in our circles. We just have a little party where we sit together, eat and drink something and talk.
Then I have misunderstood you. In a similar form, we also remember the day of our birth, when we reach the age of 1,000 years, otherwise not.
Nice. In other circles, the Earth humans really party, at least among all those humans who are real party types.
This does not occur with us. In and of itself, we expected your actions and the knowledge of your complete clarity and reverence in such matters, but nevertheless, we were surprised at the purity and reverence with which you yourself handled everything, whereby not a single unclear or impure thought was in you, as Manara determined through her thought analyzer. Know in this regard, dear friend, that even I could not have done this, because I am not capable of it, not even in spite of my higher state of evolution. Truthfully, I would have acted the same as you, but my thoughts would have played and separated impure thoughts, for I too am only a human being and devoted to these things like any form of life. But you are much further in this respect than I am, which is why I would envy you if I were capable of these feelings.
Are you familiar with jokes? Do you know a joke?
No.
Contact Report 103.
I understand that, and it saddens me a lot.
Contact Report 104.
He often causes me and also Simya Se and Ptah serious worries, has been causing us a great deal of worry for some time, and especially at present. It is not acceptable for reproaches to be made against us in relation to our tone and conduct when we are right.
Contact Report 106.
This is also the reason why various group members increasingly sought mistakes in our actions and thinking, accusing us of incorrectness and flawedness, because in their short-sighted manner of thinking and in their inadequate manner of acting, they are not yet able to understand and grasp the more evolved paths of our state of development. They are still too entangled and bound in their earthly forms of thinking and acting to be able to become acquainted with the higher forms of our evolution without making constant comparisons with the absolutely inadequate states of evolution of the earthly forms. From this point on, it is no longer very long until we are either worshipped as gods or covered with hatred and rejected. Note: the following conversation refers to a photograph that has been enhanced by painted-in effects that appeared in the September 1977 issue of GEO, Das neue Bild der Erde, ein Magazin vom Stern, Verlag Gruner plus Jahr AG und Co., Hamburg, Germany, pages 36 to 56, Countdown für San Francisco. Ein Bericht von Georg Gerster, pages 36 to 37, Photo by Max Scheler, Design by Ludek Pesek. I did not know that this picture, which was inspirationally given to this man, had already been published. Here, there must have been a slip-up, because not until the autumn of this year should it reach the public.
Well, this is likely bad luck for me, and quite lousy, because now again I have to go through the same performance, like at the time with the photograph of the universe door. Note: this refers to a photograph taken by Billy of the Gateway, between the Dern universe and the Dal universe. See Contact 31, and a painting by Rick Guidis titled Interior View, Looking Out Through Large Windows, painted for NASA's Ames Research Center in Mountain View, California, USA. It appeared in the February 1976 issue of Smithsonian Magazine, ISSN 0037-7333, Volume 6, Number 11, pages 62 to 69. Colonies in Space May Turn Out to Be Nice Places to Live, by Ron Chernow, and in an appendix titled Space Colony Illustrations, Cylindrical Colonies, to the 1977 U.S. government publication titled Space Settlements, a design study NASA SP413, which can be viewed here. For further information regarding this subject, see also a skeptic's review here. However, who did actually transmit this impression to that painter?
These were those of the Bowie intelligences, who work together with us here on Earth, and who are responsible for many inspirational transmissions. But there must have been a mistake suffered by them in respect to the publication of the picture, because in connection with certain coming events, the picture was not to reach terrestrial publication until the autumn of this year. On my part, I thought, when you had asked me for this journey, that this just very well would connect to your photographs. We will program our monitoring and control device above the center to record all thoughts and conversations so that we are always well informed. If it turns out that thoughts and talk of this kind are not revoked in valuable time, then this would mean the final breaking off of the remaining contact possibility, but also the task of our mission, which we chose out of a free sense of duty.
Contact Report 107.
Play. You should not mention that name.
Forgive me, but this exact likeness tempted me to it and made me careless.
All right, children, do not argue about it. But tell me, is Pell something like a pet name?
Sure, certain events of a rather unpleasant nature have afflicted you very much, and because of this, I feel much sorrow for you.
But girl, now tell me something else. You are very susceptible to our swinging waves, but nevertheless, you told me once that you would move among us Earth humans every now and then. How does that make sense now? If you go crazy when you come into our vicinity, then how can it be that you yourselves still move among us?
That is very easy to explain. If we move among you Earth humans, then we use, as I have already explained to you before, a very small device to neutralize the swinging waves of the Earth humans. These devices, however, are very low performance and only hold energy for barely 32 minutes. Thus, it is not possible for us to use these devices for longer periods of time. We still are not so far along that our devices could fully guard or protect us.
But Ascot already had such devices, which provided full and complete protection for many weeks and months. Why do you not make the same?
Their devices are designed completely differently and are absolutely unsuitable for our vibrations. Ascot also cannot help us with this, and thus, our scientists are dependent on developing their own devices that are coordinated to us, which are also based on an entirely different technology than the one that Ascot had with herself.
Then nothing can be done there. But about how long will it still take before you have fully developed such devices?
It is a very lengthy process and can therefore take a very long time. Unfortunately, not only do purely technological processes have to be observed and evaluated with everything, but also psychological and consciousness-related ones, which makes everything even much more difficult. If everything was only of a purely technological matter, then it would be of insignificance.
Contact Report 108.
That which we have prepared for hundreds and thousands of years in strict and constant effort, and which seemed irrevocable to us, has been ruined and destroyed by some irrational, selfish, inconsistent, treacherous, and intellectually impoverished Earth humans, as well as by internal and best-informed group members, whereby we are forced to look for a new way if we want to do justice to our task. How much irrationality, treachery, slander, tyranny, selfishness, lying, deception, intellectual poverty, and rational poverty must still also truly be concealed in those fallible Earth humans who are already moving in somewhat higher consciousness-related courses. This is a very deplorable factor, which has only fully come to our awareness now, however, and which we also, unfortunately, had not included in our calculations. There is just one thing that I do not understand in his Quetzal's explanations, namely that he speaks of a cannibal.
That is quite simple, my son. Quetzal and I have our pleasure in calling my wife by this name.
Ha 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 ha, you and ha 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 ha, that is just like the two of you. Ha 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 ha, that is really amusing despite the deep seriousness of the situation. Ha ha ha, you are good, really. Cannibal, ha ha ha, that really sounds very good. May I also? Will you ask your wife if I may also call her that in my old age? It also gives me pleasure. Cannibal. Ha 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 ha, the name really has something in it.
Calm down, my son. I will ask already. Surely she will be in agreement with it. We also have another barbarian, in addition to my cannibal.
Ah ha ha ha, and who should that be?
Maria, the ruler of the herd boss Engelbert.
Ah?
Ha 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 ha.
Why are you laughing?
I find your cluelessness so amusing.
It is probably time for us to go, for apparently, can we no longer find reasonable forms of conversation.
You spoil sport, but apparently you do nevertheless understand a joke, my son.
We also have a sense of humor and understanding for that, even if yours is often strange. But now, till we meet again, my friend, although I could be several times your father rather than your son.
Ptah, you are as good as gold. Bye to you both, you humorous guys.
Contact Report 109.
But tell me, girl, the apple there beside the viewing screen, have you stolen that from somewhere?
No, it belongs to my provisions.
Where did you get it then? Did you buy it somewhere?
No, not that either. It comes from the greenhouses of my father.
You mean that it is from Ptah's giant box, that it grew there and was harvested?
Definitely.
Aha. Then you also have such fruits, as we know them here on the earth.
Sure, but they were not originally native fruits of Era. The apple is from a tree, which comes from a progeny of earthly trees.
Oh, I see. So you have fruit trees that were taken from the earth, which you simply continue to cultivate, and you also let these bloom and bear fruit in your great spacer. So what kinds of trees do you have then?
We possess trees, shrubs, and plants of every kind, as they also exist on the earth. There are even various kinds in our greenhouses, which have already been extinct on the earth for a very long time. But we have preserved them and have made them useful to us. Thus, we have all fruits, as they are also known on the earth with you, and even several more, which you only know through your researchers of antiquity, etc.
That is fantastic. And how do these fruits taste today with you? Do they still have the same taste as we know it?
You think now of this apple. Sure, the taste has remained the same. It is, perhaps, even somewhat more intense than with your apples of this sort, and certainly much better in its juice. But all the other fruit trees from the earth, also bear fruit with the tastes or flavors known to you. It's just that these, as I have already explained, have become somewhat more intense since our robots and androids maintaining the trees work on these very attentively and also have great concern for them, as this happens with all plants cultivated by them. Billy took the large apple and brought it home with him, where he handed it over to Guido Moosbrugger, who then inserted the apple into a glass of alcohol and made it durable in this manner. The apple still exists today and is still in the same glass under the care of Guido.
Also, the individual assessments, which are still to be explained to you by Quetzal after my last remarks, are to be treated in such a manner that they do not become known to the entire internal group or to the public after the report transmissions. These assessments solely apply to the group members concerned, who are to be named in particular.
Okay, I can arrange that, but it will cost me a great deal of effort if I have to separate everything and arrange it in a list.
I will not transmit the transmissions to you in the usual form, but will program our transmission apparatuses in such a way that you can receive the transmissions at will, whereby you are only bound to time to the extent that you should be finished with your work by 3 o'clock in the morning on Sunday, the 11th of June.
Contact Report 110.
We have become tired of constantly having to deal with these kinds of unfruitful and destructive matters. Please do not interrupt me.
Contact Report 111.
Quetzal brought you into our ship with the porter teleportation device, examined you very closely, and diagnosed you here via the apparatuses. There are, therefore, no doubts about its findings. It was also the one who connected you to this regeneration device in order to eliminate the most dangerous illness effects. That is why you feel much better now. Your moisture discharge, which you call sweat, and which you noticed, is also because of this treatment referred to you, and it will still continue to persist for approximately 1 hour. Just bring forth your mockery with us. We have honestly earned it. But on the other hand, you should take into consideration that we are not superhumans or super people, and also have to learn constantly, which we can often only do through committed mistakes. On the other hand, however, the Earth humans still pose great and partially very severe problems for us in their whole manner of thinking and acting, whereby we can be misled over and over again, and through this, we also inevitably make wrong decisions and have false views.
I am not reproaching you all, girl. Sometimes one is just led to express oneself in mockery.
That is of correctness. That is also often the case with us. Once I have set you down, keep moving and do not just stand still at the place. Otherwise, you will fall asleep on the spot. I had to numb your nerves, so now it is as though they are sleeping, and they are very slow to react.
Oh, and how long will this condition last then?
Around 12 to 14 days, for only through this will the nerves regenerate in a short time.
So, how did you make this numbing?
Through electromagnetic influences.
So to speak, a bombardment?
That is approximately of correctness.
Contact Report 112.
How is it with you? Do you actually also dance? I mean, like with us, men and women together, etc.?
Such rhythmic movements are well known to us, and the Earth humans have also taken this over from our ancestors. These rhythmic movements are, to my knowledge, known among all human forms in the universe, only in very different forms. But the rule is that male life forms among us do not indulge in such rhythmic movements together with female life forms, but only alone or among their peers.
Contact Report 114.
That is unfortunately of correctness. And concerning this, I would still like to say the following, which depresses me.
Contact Report 115.
Many women of the earth are just not so far along as you all, who give your husbands faith when they tell you all something.
We do not know such untruths anymore.
How does it actually stand with you all on Era with regard to marriage? You, Quetzal, are you actually married? And if so, how many children do you have? And you, Ptah, your wife, is she your only one?
The law of love has overall universal validity, only that it very often becomes changed by the most diverse human races according to their own human and illogical negative values. Thus, they often create a monogamous marriage, which is literally restricted to only one woman and one man for such a marriage and such a family. The truthfulness of monogamy, as you have so aptly disassembled for me once, no longer applies. Well then, I was married to 3 women, which corresponds to the minimum value of a we-form partnership of universal expanse. Nevertheless, out of the 3, the only one living is the mother of my deceased son and my 2 daughters. For the other 2 have left me by means of death, the one already more than 300 years ago, and the other one more than 360 years ago.
Aha, and how many years old is your still remaining wife?
630 years.
But what about further descendants? Do you have even more?
No, my current wife only bore me 3 children.
Well, thanks for your information. So what about you, Quetzal?
He is pampered by 4 very beautiful women and has 6 children with them.
You smile so suspiciously, girl. You seem to be really happy about it.
Sure, his wives are my best friends, and they always wish that I shall become the 5th in their alliance.
And Quetzal, what do you say to that?
Simya say, and I are of another opinion than my wives.
And why, if one may ask?
I would not like to marry again. On the one hand, because the loss of a human being by death gives me very much grief, and on the other hand, because I have found a very important task in my activities, which can hardly be reconciled with a marriage.
Contact Report 116.
It is very unfortunate that the device is not functioning in the manner that we hoped for. Indeed, it is fully functional, but for reasons that are incomprehensible to me, it brings you no relief.
According to what criteria have you manufactured it, then?
According to the exact analytical recordings of our apparatuses over your body. Therefore, do not be anxious, for under all circumstances, I will make the device functional for you, even if I myself can no longer bring it to use with you together. But in any case, it will be so that you will be connected to this device in each case by a robotic apparatus, which will come to you and also ask you to wait at a certain place for this. Note: please see the full contact report for the context of this entry. See also Contact Report 117, P 138 to 140 entry below. We would first have to let these things be clarified by the High Council, but it would certainly look like this, that for this task, a young married couple would be determined, or else a virgin, who would be inseminated as such, and would also bear a child still as a virgin.
Do you mean that even with the young married couple, the woman would still have to be a virgin, or am I mistaken there? And at the same time, are you also thinking of an artificial procreation?
That is of correctness, and evidently, you understand very well what I am getting at with my explanation.
Contact Report 117.
I know. You have finally laid out the law of love and the clarification of life and death.
I would like to ask that you make a copy of each work available to me. My daughter Plagia would also like a copy of each.
You can have that. Indeed, Quetzal also wants one of each.
You also should not forget me.
But I will always give you a copy of everything anyway.
Sure, but these will always be assigned to our archive. But I would still like to have a copy of each of these works for myself alone.
Okay, I will gladly do that. But tell me, Ptah, how will you read my books then? You only speak Greek, and we always have to use this translator together. How will you find your way in the books then?
I will have them be translated for me into my native language. In all other respects, I have decided that next year I will endeavor myself around the German language if it should be decided in the month of March that we can continue to attend to our task and still fulfill this.
Man, I think that is great. But look here. I received these photos a few months ago from abroad, with the note that the pictures were made in a private museum of a man who had stolen some scrolls in an ancient grave somewhere in Egypt. I have also received the film of these pictures. What do you think of it, Ptah?
He looks closely at the photos and then puts them in a device which looks like a screen and then speaks some words that are unintelligible to me into the same device. In a few minutes, we will have an analysis that tells us whether the image prints are genuine and whether the photographed material is old or new, and thus whether it concerns a forgery or not. The writing on the prints really should be known to you, my friend.
It is indeed known to me, as Svath and Asket have striven to teach me this language. This concerns the Old Lyran language, which is extremely similar to our German language in very many values. So, for example, in the sentence structure, and in many other things, like, for example, in sentence progression.
You still understand the language? Do you also still understand how to speak it?
With the speaking, it lacks quite enormously. But with the deciphering, it goes to some extent, although I had quite nasty difficulties with it at the beginning.
Then you should practice the language again, for it is still current in certain planetary areas. Maybe you can use it sometime.
You are good. I already messed around with it for several months, until I only had the alphabet together again, and was able to decipher the writing, which has indeed no longer been current for around 8,000 years, and has probably also been completely forgotten by the human beings of the Earth.
One moment, my friend, we are getting the analysis. Yes, look here. The prints are genuine and show a photographed material that is 8,000 years old. It concerns a paper-like material that has all the properties of paper but is far more stable and was used by the old descendants of the Lyrans who ultimately came to the Earth. This means that the man with whom you have spoken must, therefore, actually be in possession of 8,000-year-old original documents. Note: see the full contact report for the image and its translation. This appears to be the same document described by Wendell Stevens here from 30, 16 to 33, 25, and shown on pages 15 to 18 of Message from the Pleiades. The contact notes of Edward Billy Meier 4, although the document described by Stevens in the video and the book has a different backstory origin. The scrap of text indicates the line of succession of prophets from Henoch to Billy. See also this chart. Note: for the following entry, please refer to Contact Report 116, Q 76 to 77 entry above.
But tell me, how should such an artificial insemination take place according to your idea?
Two possibilities would be possible. The first would, indeed, be quite impractical and even disagreeable to us, namely that an artificially induced fertilization would be carried out. for which we would have to put the appropriate virgin in a hypnopsychic state, through which she would release a self-fertilization. The second possibility would be that earthly physicians would, through a natural expenditure, carry out a transfer of sperm from a suitable man and maneuver this sperm in the normal way of transfer into the body of the virgin, obligating herself to this.
What I would still like to say, the last times Quetzal has given the report transmissions to me slower than usual, because I have a new typewriter, with which I am not yet so fast. Would it be possible that you too transmit this and the next reports to me a little more slowly, so that I keep up with the typing? Everything is indeed still so incredibly fast.
Sure, but Quetzal has now developed a control gear device with which it is now possible to type faster. Look here, this measuring instrument behind your back. You have not even noticed it. It indicates here your physical and psychical power reserves. And as you see here, these are very close to the minus value. This display here, however, which I, Quetzal, and Father have already had our eyes on for a good while, and attentively observe, shows us how you generate new powers out of your consciousness realm and constantly drive these values up again from your psyche and physical body. As you yourself see, the display here steadily rises to higher values, and within just a short hour, you will already have more than a third of your power reserves again. In 2 hours, there will already be 2/3, and in 3 hours, your power reserves will be completely normal again, even though they were below the minus value when you came here. Similarly, you will also still further increase your powers afterwards, and will enrich the normal, constant powers of the physical body and the psyche again. But similarly, Quetzal has also done this, which we could also determine with him with this measuring apparatus. But how you bring this to pass, both of you, that is puzzling to us because normally, human beings not of your type often require many months and even years to regenerate these powers fully, while human beings of our sensitivity still require even more time when it comes to such decays of powers. You both are really very puzzling to us, and from this, it arises that our sciences have a new object of research, which was previously unknown to them.
Aha, then in the future, Quetzal will probably play experimental rabbit?
It will be necessary for me to be submitted to tests and analyses, etc. That will be unavoidable because the whole thing represents a phenomenon whose deciphering can be of great importance for many life forms, because perhaps they can acquire, through an exact investigation and solution of the things, the same ability that the two of us possess, and that was previously unknown among us.
Contact Report 119.
Every contact attempt has been unsuccessful so far, unfortunately. It seems to be absolutely the case that they do not perceive us at all.
But you could nevertheless simply fly up to these unknown flying objects.
That cannot be done, unfortunately, because the objects depart immediately as soon as a flying device that is foreign to them approaches them.
I find that crazy. After all, you should have certain possibilities with your highly developed technology.
Even our possibilities are limited. You are only looking at everything from the perspective of an earthly standpoint, whereby you overestimate our technology, at least in this case.
That is possible, and I see, therefore, that even for you, limits are set in certain matters of technology.
That is of correctness. But now, I would like to give you my best wishes for the start of your 42nd year of life. We have only come here today for this reason.
Under no circumstances did I want to fail to greet you today and to give you my dearest wishes.
I have also come here with the same wishes for you.
You are making me rather embarrassed, but I am very happy, and thank you very much. But on the other hand, I must already say that you behave rather peculiarly, namely just like Earthlings. After all, such birthday wishes are otherwise not your style.
That is of correctness. But especially Sim-Ya-Se has pushed very much to offer you wishes in this form because through this, we can draw you near to how much we are already connected with earthly things, in reference to certain common interests of the Earth humans.
Look here. Here is an entire stack of descriptive sheets. I have them fully written with cosmic and mathematical calculations regarding various things. In the main, this was all about calculating the expansion rate of the creation, and, thus, also of the universe. With this, I wanted to work out the distance of the diameter of the universe, and thereby came across the following results, if I may present these.
But of course, because I know you very well, and know so very exactly that you really would never approach us with such questions if you were not sure of your case.
But now, in this case, this might be an exaggeration, my child.
That is also my view. It would be a pointless endeavor to listen to these questions.
That is very intolerant of you both. On the other hand, you should nevertheless know our friend better. At least give him a chance, because he has very much more than just earned this through all his surely very great efforts with his calculations, even if these are faulty, which I do not presume, however, and could not understand.
In this light, your argumentation is of correctness. Then it should be so. Bring forth your questions, my friend.
And you, Quetzal, do you also agree with it?
If Ptah gives consent, then I will argue nothing against it, even though everything in this regard seems senseless to me. Note: please see the full contact report for the context of this entry.
That is possible. It is not going particularly well for me. At the same time, I just think that everything has no great meaning anymore. Somehow I feel this.
I know, because everything is only a postponement, which is why I myself very often feel sad.
Can you tell me how much oxygen a full-grown tree actually supplies, and how many young trees are needed to replace a full-grown tree in its oxygen production?
This question falls into the area of one of my professions, and therefore I can answer it for you.
Contact Report 120 note. Please see the full contact report for the context of this entry.
In our last visit, Sim-Ya-Se was so very happy about the fact that everything was back to being almost as it was at an earlier time, and now I have to rummage around in these foul things again. How sorry I am about all this, and it disgusts me already.
Contact Report 121 a note. This entry is related to Contact Report 96, I-36 to 47.
But on this day, she personally carried out a very important analysis for the first time, in whose course and result she got so worked up that her artificial brain mass that was still in transition produced dangerous changes, through which she fell into a deep coma. The only possibility left for us was to bring her immediately to Asket's people in the DAL universe, where she is now being brought back to good health by the same scientists who treated Sim-Ya-Se before. In the meantime, it is already very good with her again, but now it is being tried to transform the artificial brain convolutions in a very short time through certain procedures and innovations, after which such incidents should not appear anymore. The attempts for this plan are still ongoing, but these should be completed and finished in the course of next week, after which, then, the actual transformation treatment will be carried out, which should take about 2 months. Understand that I feel very deep love for you and that you are like a brother to me, as this also occurs with Simyase and Plagia, as well as Quetzal and Ptah.
What are the recordings stored on?
They are very small electronic storage disks, the size of a normal female thumbnail. There would only be the possibility that one of the elements would be defective, by which means recordings would be missing.
Minara speaks with someone by means of a kind of video device, with a man unknown to me.
Yes, you were right with your assumption that something was lost, but it was not a storage element, but rather a microscopically small connecting piece between two tiny storage cells, by which means the recordings were not played. Somehow, I must have damaged the element during a manipulation. Look here, these are her, Elgie's words, if you can decipher the symbols, and these characters here are the recordings of her true thinking and the unconscious. After that, I have to exchange a corresponding element in the control device, which will be programmed according to the data to be submitted to me. This element will then be coupled with an automatic control mechanism, which is programmed on the thought impulses of the individual group members and also on the group member candidates, and which automatically sets a corresponding circuit in function for the elimination of all values in the central piece if an unjustified and illogical absence from an exercise or registration occurs. But this also applies to a storage. This apparatus works in such a manner that it is able, in its half-organic operation, to determine genuine illness symptoms, evasions, and untrue information absolutely logically and independently, in order then, accordingly, to set a corresponding circuit into function, which regulates the broad storage or the elimination of all data and powers. So in the future, if anyone stays away from the Sohar Center, see the last entry here, a meditation area at the Simyase Silver Star Center without a logical reason. So therefore, not as a result of truthful illness, non-availability for some compelling reason, nausea, or self-unintentional delay, then the individual's entire storage will be eliminated for that person, according to which the further use of the Sohar Center by the same becomes completely unnecessary, because he or she will no longer be able to achieve successes therein, for which the control disk is also programmed. But this also means that all the forces of an incarnation storage would likewise be eliminated in such a case, whereby these then also fall out. What is not functioning properly yet, with regard to the Sohar Center, is that it now also finally has to be understood by the responsible persons that they have to turn off their thoughts during the introduction of persons into the Sohar Center, which is not done, unfortunately. Quetzal has, indeed, invented and installed a suitable safeguard, which absorbs such power, but there is still constantly the risk that through the thoughts of the one introducing, some unpleasant incidents or damage will appear. Noti, the following excerpt refers to a detailed history of the Pleiadian civilization and their expeditions to Earth and the solar system, given in Contact Report 5, S67 to 193, Contact Report 9, 120 to 170, and Contact Report 70, 23 to 181.
Then I have a somewhat complicated question. Through various calculations, I have another time encountered the fact that something cannot be right with the dimensions of our present, from this to the Centaurus groups, as well as to Lyra and Vega, and even to the Pleiades. According to my calculations, these suns and planets addressed, of which there was already often talk between Simyase, Quetzal and me, as well as between Ptah and me, would really have to be in other dimensions, as it was said to me repeatedly. This would therefore actually mean that their Lyra and Vega human beings, and still some others, are just as non-existent in our present dimension as also the Pleiadians and the Centaurus human beings. And if my calculations are right, then you all would have to live just a fraction of a second in the future to our space-time configuration, which for us, however, results in a difference of several thousand years with regard to technological development. But how this is connected, that is a riddle to me, and it could even be very difficult to understand. But Ptah once spoke of the fact that on that, or on a planet of the Centaurus groups, a people lives in overpopulation, which comprises about 120 billion. So these, then, would have to live in the future, as seen by us. On the other hand, I also calculated that at that time, around 22 million years ago, when the events took place in the Lyra and Vega area, which eventually led to the visits to our Earth. At that time, through some skillful manipulations, the Lyra and Vega refugees fell into the past and so penetrated into our space-time level. With certainty, this was no so-called chance, but rather a full calculation. This arose from my contemplation of the fact that the technology of your ancestors was already so widely developed at that time that these would have tracked and found the refugees with certainty. But since that was not the case, the refugees must have retreated into areas that fell outside of the control of the pursuers. But concerning this, there are only two possibilities, so namely the past or the future. But as I know the things now, the refugees were not able to venture into the future, so only the past remained open to them, to where they then actually also retreated. And because the past comprises millions of years and even billions of years in a life potential form, the pursuit was given up. But this, in turn, means that the technology of your ancestors was not yet developed so far that they would have been able to carry out detections in the areas of the past or the future.
Contact Report 122.
On the other hand, in our overall form of leadership of the peoples, politics is foreign to us, so we will also never get involved on the earth and with the earthly governments in such a form and connection. Politics are only operated by human life forms who are still very foreign to the truth and who look at, consider, and handle all things in childish aspects. We, however, have long been beyond such forms and will never get involved in them any more, neither in one form nor another. We conduct no negotiations at all with any earthly governments because we are those who want to help without any compensation and without any demands of the human beings of earth for our profit. We are solely willing to offer assistance within a reasonable and responsible framework without the human being of earth owing us a wage because of that.
Contact Report 123.
The objects observed and photographed by you come from the Andromeda areas, and these are fine material flying objects, similar to the bioorganic flying objects that you know. In this case, however, it is such that these flying objects are fine material and not bioorganic, and that these, depending on preference and need, are generated by powers of consciousness from a very highly developed human dwarf race whose size amounts to approximately 70 centimeters, whereby I speak of body height. This race, which is even unknown to us, is fine-dimensioned and stands in the advice of the High Council. Anyhow, the High Council became informed and enlightened by these Nabulanians, so they are, in fact, called. Also, Quetzal will continue to endeavor himself around your health, and will try to develop his apparatus and the accompanying device appropriate for it. So he can then, perhaps, install this in the control disk, which also remains, of course. From there, you would then be under the constant impulse effect of the device, so then no direct connection to your body would be necessary anymore.
You are very brainy in terms of psychology, girl. During your remarks, I considered everything thoroughly and came to the same result as you.
Thank you, but I am also well versed in psychology, for this is one of my special areas of expertise.